Hello and welcome back to another episode of Queensland Abandoned Mines. And today we are, we're starting with this photo here. A little bit of a reasoning on that. So unlikely because the channel's only small, but if we've got anyone that watches this series and has done any underground exploring or caving before, you'd probably know what the feeling's like. You might have an unexplored branch of a cave or a mine or a shaft that you never went down, and it just plays on your mind. And it's quite an interesting thing. Then when you get back out there to the property to explore it again, you kind of remember why you didn't take it on the first time. So this episode's a bit of a failed mission, but something a little bit different at the end of it for you guys. But this first photo is a shaft that, it's really the only reason we went back out to the property, because we're hoping it was a way. We're hoping there was actually a drive that went off in a different direction that we think it did, to be able to access some of the huge workings below our feet. And the second photo here is the second reason we went back out. We actually got egged on by a couple of subscribers that wanted us to dig this out. So we did. We forgot to take shovels because walking up to these part of the mountains with a shovel we thought would look pretty sus. So we dug it out by hand. The temperature on the day that we're up there was over 35 degrees. It was absolutely insane. We had to move a ton of rocks which kept falling down a shaft, and we had to use a little timber prop, and effectively we had to dig like a little channel and then sort of cave it in to be able to squeeze through. And then my wife was on the other side and could hear me mucking around in there, and eventually you could see my torchlight shining through, and it just led to an open cut. So definitely not a mine tunnel per se, but probably just a little haulage drift that they use. They'd probably pour in ore down this little open cut and then haul it out with the carts to the processing plant. You want to talk about heat? Not too sure what this equates to in the US language, but we're up on the hills. It was 35 degrees on this day, and when we got back to the car, even the windows down, it was still about 38 or 39. And the whole way back to the town that we live at, Howard, even by 5 o'clock in the afternoon, it was still 36 degrees. So we picked one of the hottest days of the year to do our last little trip to this property, which for today's episode shall remain nameless, because we had permission to be out there. I know a few people might know where this is, especially with the drone footage, but if you know where it is, please do not name the location. It's private property, and aside from that, it's a pretty dangerous place to explore if you don't know what you're doing. So sit back and enjoy today's episode. G'day guys, Ebenezer here. Welcome back to another episode. Welcome to 2022. So another undisclosed location today, and we just had a bit of a detour. When you're out west, there's always these little spots along the way. So we just stopped off at a site that's one of the oldest workings in the area. Dates back to the years just before 1900. So this mine would have all been steam powered. And check this out, this is pretty cool. Don't think I've seen this before. Number one, look at all the quartz on the ground. Everywhere you walk. This old mine had a fair sized poppet head above it. I'd say maybe, I don't know, 50 years ago. Someone's capped it, and I don't think I've seen it before. The cap has failed. Look at the size of these timbers. That would have housed this big, I'll put up a photo of what it would have looked like when it was erected. You can see the remnants, the old miners' ladders. They would have had to get up to grease the big bull wheel at the top, the big shim wheel. But someone's had a really good go at capping this, and the cap has failed. Check that out. That concrete's probably about 3 foot thick. So I'd say it's capped down there as well. Look at that concrete. Wowee. Pretty cool. So when they've shut the mine, they've just collapsed all this in. So this would have been one of the footings for the poppet head. It's all long gone now. We've got the remnants of an old processing shed over here. That's one footing for the hoist. Here's the other footing for the hoist. Maybe another two up there, but you can see how spaced these out, how big it would have been. This probably would have stood about 50, 60 feet high. And this is possibly one of the old carriages they would have sent down. See, someone's been having a bit of a campfire here. Lovely spot for a camp. Now I'd say this would have been the old mill site, the old battery. Judging by the size, it would have been a fairly big mine back in its day. This hasn't operated for over 110 years. Oh. All right, today is hot. My word, it's hot. It's meant to get up to 35 degrees out where we are, which is out west. Hey, another little boiler. All the remnants of what's left of one. So you can date that pre-1925, 1930, because welding wasn't invented then. So they had to bolt these together with enormous rivets. How cool. All right.
It's a long way down. It's so soft, look. Just all...
What about that big bit there? Yeah.
Yeah. Not so unstable.
The problem is the shape of the stope though, because it's all going to just channel down onto my head. Well, the only spot to climb is here, but then there's nothing to tie off to at all.
I think if you drilled into that rock, it'll come around you anyway.
Nah, it's all the way back to here, look. All of it. I think the whole thing. Alright, so as we swing the GoPro down this open stope, shaft, whatever you name it, look at the ground. It is absolutely just completely oxidised, full of mud, and even around about 20 feet down the shaft, which we are about now, which we thought was solid sandstone, it is still an absolute nightmare. And you guys can judge for yourself whether or not it'd be worth climbing down there. You can sort of see a little bit of a drift down there. Something bright red in there too, looks a bit sus. Don't know what that is. But I think it was just a bit of an open stope and a bit of a test of the seam. And you'll probably hear what's about to happen now. So we're up on the collar. I'm up on the collar. My buddy that was with me is way back. I'm strapped to a tree with a 2-ton capacity tow rope linked into my carabiner. And right about now, I absolutely stack it. I fall down onto my butt because the collar I was standing on completely gave way. And then this is me trying to get back up to my feet. So if that was any justification as to why we shouldn't have climbed down this stope, that's it right here. That's what would have landed on our head. Alrighty guys, just started filming again. For all of our viewers that follow any of the Californian mine explorers, I still stand by my comments. I don't know if I added on an earlier episode. Those guys are a bunch of princesses. We are all but lost. Other than our GPS watch in the thickest bush, it is 35 degrees. And we've got some pretty strict instructions for the property that we're on not to pass any fences. So we've been out and about for over 2 hours now. There is no old miners paths or anything through this part of the bush. And we've just trekked through that scrub jungle. Arms and legs are shredded. But we hit a barbed wire fence, so immediately turned back. We don't know who owns that property. But man, oh man, so far today has been a bit of a bust. We have had the intentions of coming out here and sinking down what I was hoping was an air shaft that led down to some lower workings. Now we don't know what's down there yet. A friend and I
today just deemed that shaft way too dangerous. We stared at it for a good half an hour, and it's probably never a collared shaft. Definitely looks like a ventilation shaft, or someone testing the quality of the seam at depth. But there's probably about a diameter of about a 20 to 25 feet ring around the collar, which is just completely gone. It's all just really loose compacted sediment. And the problem with the shaft, if you couldn't already tell from the earlier video, is that because of the shape of it, kind of like a rectangle shape, every single rock that falls down will funnel down straight on top of your head and shoulders. So we're going to go launch the drone. And last time I was up here, I sent my mine probe down the Dreadnought shaft. It got tangled up at about 125 feet. But today, I've got 350 feet of rope. Oh, sorry guys, trying to get my breath. So there's 3 shafts in the Dreadnought. Middle one's a manway. Left one looks like it's for the hoist, and the right one looks like it's for utility. Air, electric, water. Well, no electric. That shaft was put in around 1910. But we're going to send my GoPro down that hole. So I'll see you guys when we're about to launch the drone. Just before I go though, obviously can't share too much history of where we are. We don't want to lead people out here. But there is one cool story that I'd like to share with you. It started around about 1895, and back then, if there were some really well-known miners that were coming over from Wales, Scotland, England, anywhere in Europe, all the mining camps here would know about them because they'd be coming over on ship. So they'd all get lots and lots of notice that they departed their port. And one miner came over, and can't actually find out his real name, but there's a Welsh name and none of the Aussie miners could pronounce it, so they called him Blowy. But what happened with this guy is he appeared out in these hills at the mining office with a massive nugget, pre-1900. Now pre-1900 a massive nugget would have been more than just a couple of ounces, would have been a fair old size. And what that led to mums, dads, whole families all running up into the hills and camping out there indefinitely until the train stopped around these parts. Because what they wanted to do, they wanted to see if anyone disembarked, because back then a miner or a prospector was really easy to pick. Would have had their swag, would have had their miner's pickaxe. Oy. So what these families did, they just stationed out there indefinitely, looking to see where miners would disembark between here and Paradise. They then chase them in there into the bush, and they'd try and set up a claim, try and find out where the gold is. But once they assayed the gold, they found out that it was never from these hills. That's actually quite a common story in mining. I've done a story about Mount Melanie before, where they salted the mine, and the same thing happened here. Within a couple of days, the geologist in the assay office could identify, just through the gold signature, its shape, its colour. Apparently the gold experts can pick up gold even once it's amalgamated, and once it's actually alloyed into jewellery, the real experts can still see the gold signature, even once it's in the form of a ring. So this guy Blowy got off his ship from England, started a massive gold rush, had everyone staged up in the hills for weeks at a time, and then they had to let out that the nugget was from Paradise. So they all got the next train to Paradise and did the exact same thing. Alright.
Alrighty guys, here we go with the maiden flight of our little drone, and boy did it come in handy today. The heat up on the hill on that day was just absolutely unbearable. So if it wasn't for this little fella, we wouldn't have been able to see into the bottom of this mine. Just to explain to you what's going on, there's 2 shafts, one to the west and then one to the east that you're looking at now. Now we did actually go on the fence and have a look at this big fella. It is absolutely huge. It's probably about 25 feet wide by 20 feet across, and I don't think you're going to see it here, but there is actually the ground around about 80 feet, just below the part that you can see there. So they have capped it. They've capped it really well. It's pretty common in mines, and they've put the fencing up above it. What we're flying over here is the huge foundation of what would have been one of the processing plants. So a unique thing about this mountain is that between about the years of about 1875 and pre-1900s, for at least 10 years, the whole hill was working under one claim from what we can see. That's not common. I mean, you can have all these little claims, which means everyone got to run their own battery and process the ore in different parts of the hill. But this is one massive consolidated claim for a really, really long time. And you can see the ground here is really what we call is just scorched earth. I mean, all of that is mullock, all of that is waste rock. So you can see, I think, what's going on. The first two shafts you can see that we flew over just a moment ago, I think is where they would have brought out the good ore from. I actually don't know the process of what they've got to do to refine copper before it goes to the smelter. And then this big shaft is the one that we've been obsessing over. This is the main shaft. This is the Dreadnought shaft. Now, I believe because of the amount of waste rock and the lack of any processing plants around here, I think this is where they would have actually brought up the waste. Now, we actually solved the mystery of this shaft on this episode. You can see that we'd been mucking around here in previous episodes, so we didn't want to show you too much repeated footage. But what we did, we sunk the GoPro down. We were doing this for over an hour just to try and get over the landing. The landing's coming up that you see here. Now, the landing's around about the 125 foot mark. So we were expecting to see levels that branch off to the north and south at around about the 75 foot mark. That didn't happen. Maybe we're thinking when they actually closed the mining claim that they were actually boarded it up, or it's all boarded up behind there. But after looking at this footage, I don't think that's the case. I actually think this shaft sunk down a full 1,300 feet. And what you're seeing right now is a really cool shot. Really proud of this one. It took us so long to get the GoPro over that landing. That is the view down from about the 125 foot landing, and you can probably see down past the 200 foot mark. And you can see that mine is just absolutely gone. I think I can see water behind all that collapsed timber. There is definitely no levels down there, and that's about all she wrote for the Dreadnought shaft. There is no way we're getting down that thing. Absolute death trap. And that pretty much wraps up the episode. We've got something a little bit different coming up just now, so just stay to the very end. And as far as what's coming up for Queensland Abandoned Mines for 2022, well, nothing planned at the moment. The trip that we just finished, the one that you're seeing now, was absolutely soul-destroying. So too was the trip that we did mid-December. That was the absolute adventure of a lifetime. Now, I'd really love to be able to share that with all the subscribers on the channel, but all of the people with us on that day and the landowners, we've all agreed in unison not to share that. The farm that we visited, that we ended up having to do an impromptu extra night, take a day off work, ended up being two huge, I think 8-hour days the first day, and I think we're still out and about for about 6 or 7 hours the next day. The farm operates under what's called farm biosecurities. We're still learning a lot about that. It's got to be very well respected. To actually access this property, we had to have a vehicle inspection to make sure we're not bringing on rats, tails, weeds, and all kinds of things. So the decision was made as a group and the property owner, all in unison, not to share that. Now, probably the most common thing we get asked on Queensland Abandoned Mines, actually the only thing we get asked, we actually did a video of our equipment, and that's had least amount of views ever. But it's about how much gold we have found throughout the year. On all our social media platforms, we get asked a lot. So we don't collect gold. We are not prospectors. The only, I guess you'd call them specimens we collected was months ago, almost a year ago. It was back in last summer. We were exploring a mine that's in National Park, just north of Childers. And there's a dude that turned up there that was just frantically rummaging through rocks. I mean, this guy was wading in the creek, he was panning, he had a pickaxe with him. I mean, I'll give it to this guy. He's absolutely tenacious on his hunt for, well, I guess, precious metals. Later found out that you're not allowed to take anything from state parks or state forestry, so maybe not hats off to that guy. Sorry if you're watching. But he gave us a couple of samples that we left with. We have had those in our glove box for about 10 odd months. So at the end of this episode, we decided to show you the amount of gold that we have accumulated in a year by crushing them and panning them. So we bought some equipment and we're going to have a bit of fun and show you how good we are at recovering gold. Give you a heads up, it's not very good. Alrighty guys, so here we are. We'll give this a crack. These are the tools needed. You go into the kitchen and get your wife's best strainer. Did a bit of reading up on this. I don't know what mesh this would be, but I think the finer the better. Now it is important that you've got some breathing equipment, because whenever you crush anything that's got quartz in it, it's going to release silica, and you get that in your lungs and you're going to be in big trouble. We've got our little thing, don't know what that's called, and you need one of these to be able to suck up all of the particles of gold if we get any. Eye protection magnet for trying to filter out the magnetic rocks, or your hematite, and anything that could be all your iron that's going to stick to the magnet. Got our little rock crusher here, gold pan that you've got to rough up with some sandpaper, and then we've got our little bag of samples. I'll show you this, just let me put the camera down for a sec. Alright, so this is what we got. If we got any geology nuts, they'll probably be able to tell if this is worth doing or not before we even start. Well, that one already looks like a bit of gold. That's quartz, but it looks like whatever was in there is all sort of rusted out. It's all oxidized out. That one looks really promising. Yeah, so there we go. So we'll crush it up, sift it out, chuck some water in there, and see what we get. And I've been told that you've got to put some dishwashing liquid into that, and got to have a fan. So I'd say this is only going to take an hour or so, but imagine if you're doing this all day. You crush that up, that's going to release that really fine powder. You get that in your lungs, and that's called miner's consumption. So if you do this for a living, you'd have to make sure that you really look after your lungs. So this is going to be a bit of fun. Let's see what we get. Alright, there's that stage of it done. There's definitely heaps of shiny stuff in there, but I mean, even although I just said in the earlier video we don't really know what we're doing, I can definitely tell the difference between real gold and fool's gold. Someone that actually knows what they're talking about said it's never going to be the colour, it's going to be the shape. And your chalcopyrite and your pyrite is really shiny. I forget the word that he used, but it's more of a sort of a grid shape, or maybe I'll chuck it up on the screen, the actual definition of it, like a little floor tile, whereas gold will never have those sharp edges. It's also, we live out in the middle of nowhere, but this thing is not very neighbour friendly. It makes an absolute racket, so if you lived in suburbia you're really going to upset your neighbours with that, but oh well. We will chuck a bit of detergent in here and see what we get. Alright, so we've got our little panning tub. Got our pan all ready to go. H is going to chuck a couple of drops of dishwashing liquid into it. Chuck it in, champ. I think more than that. I think more again. Oh, that's enough. That's good. That's so the gold doesn't float, because we're going to get so much of it. Alright, well, see how we go. I'll try to sort of hold the GoPro between my legs and see if I can film it as I go. Alright, here we go. Alright. Already you can see all the shiny stuff is the lighter stuff in the pan, so I don't think that should be happening. It should all be at the bottom if it was the good stuff. So far progress isn't great. Let's keep going. All right. Now, one thing that was meant to happen that definitely didn't happen, I was meant to go down to some darker coloured sands. That definitely didn't happen. But I do have a couple of pieces left in the bottom. Oh, there we have it, guys. Got one little speck there. Got a little speck there. And I've got a little speck there. And a couple more little bits in there. I don't even know if they're gold. Another little one over here. So I told my wife when I was making this video and she asked if there was enough to make a gold ring. I would say absolutely not. Alright guys, well that's our haul from 12 months of exploring abandoned mines in Queensland. We will not be giving up our day job. Thanks for tuning in. See you guys on the next one.